And they called me in with the police and everybody else in the 7th grade and were screaming at me. And then they were shocked. They said I was the only kid they'd ever known that kept his mouth shut. Nowadays, they would have just taken me for that. Because I'm a real American and you're not. Coming up in the next hour, we're going to premiere 2 new trailers. In fact, one of them is a sneak peek and trailer, comboed. It's over 5 minutes long. You're going to see part of the section of Police State 4, The Rise of FEMA, where they're in Pittsburgh, and the Pentagon puts out a press release that you can come talk to their public affairs officer, their PAO, about the 4,000 troops that we're going to be deploying on the streets of Pittsburgh. So our guys show up, are incredibly polite. The military is not polite. They look at them with hate and are rude and have rude tones. They then follow them from the edge of the base and call the police on them and said they were sneaking around and ran from them. Then the police said that we're going to put you on a terrorist database. I called the police commander myself and talked to him on the phone and said, we are human beings. How dare you threaten to put my employees on a terror list? And he said, well, we're not going to do that now. And I said, that's right. We're human beings. We have wives and families. We have children. We're allowed to go cover your event. Do you realize how evil it is, officer, to try to destroy people's lives like we're not even human beings? You can't just frame us like we aren't humans. But that goes back to what Dr. Frederick Whitehurst talked about. Blew the whistle on that system, framing thousands of people a year. It just came out the San Francisco police office framed thousands and thousands of people. They just take a file out and stamp that they're guilty and falsify the test. And what Whitehurst said, it's mainly laziness. They don't even want to do the test. That's why the labs have over 95% in the numbers we've seen nationwide guilty. They don't even do the test, ladies and gentlemen. And then if it is corrupt cops or politicians or somebody, they then cover up the evidence. Remember Fahmy Malek, the state medical examiner that Clinton hired? People would have their arms and legs and heads chopped off and be have gasoline poured on them and be found in a dump. And they would say that people had cut their own arms and legs off, or that kids had sawed their own arms and legs and heads off and shot themselves who'd seen government drug dealing in Mena. And police officers that were investigating Clinton would be machine gunned off the road in 2 cases, and Fahmy Malek would say that that was suicide. Or up in California, Gary Webb shot twice in the head, murdered, and police said it was a suicide. I mean, what, you come in my house and I'm hung up by meat hooks and my arms and legs are cut off and the news is going to say I committed suicide? It's like that Palestinian professor in Austin that we learned federal informants were manipulating. His whole body was sliced up, his guts ripped out, torture wounds all over him, his arms and legs bound behind him with duct tape, and he supposedly threw himself in the middle of Lake Austin, now known as Lady Bird Lake. Since the first lady died, they renamed it. It's really the Colorado River. Then they called it Lake Austin. Then they called it Town Lake, and now it's called Lady Bird. So whatever new name it's got this week. The point is, threw himself in Lady Bird Lake, and then the imam called me because they got the body. And the police report admitted, bound his own hands and feet. Oh, sure he did. Ladies and gentlemen, this is how stupid they think you are. This is how corrupt they are at the top, that they can do whatever they want. They can take your pension funds. They can pass government takeover of health care. They can do whatever they want. It is an armed criminal camp moving against the American people. And as Dr. Frederick Whitehurst said, when FBI agents and police try to do the right thing, they get set up, or they get arrested, or they get fired, or they get demoted. This is what America has turned into. Now, here's another huge piece of information. This is huge. I have been to events all over the United States, and I've been to events in Canada, and I have seen anarchists come and go with the police. I first saw this in 1999 at the Fortune 500 conference. Mike Hansen has got to dig this out. He's been digging out old tapes from the TV show. He's got them all, almost all of them, and putting them on the web. We commend that. But this did air many times on Access TV in Austin in 1999. And I show up for a march of about 2,000 people from the Texas Capitol down to the Four Seasons of the Fortune 500 meeting, globalist meeting. And immediately, these anarchists run over. They were the older ones. They were cops and informants. These were not their moron, meth head, kids that are, basically rich kids who have their own trust funds, who are there as useful idiots and a nice pool for the cops to set up. And these cops come over, dressed like anarchists, and start shoving me and pushing me. And this one redheaded one with a red beard leans into me, because Mike was off of the camera about 10 feet away, and says, "I'm going to kill you," and shoves his hands into my chest. And I was smart and didn't hit him. I noticed he had two huge APD cops. I mean, these guys were like 6'5", 6'2", each, arms the size of tree trunks. I bet one of them could bench press 450 pounds. These were not meth head trust fund kids. And they had bandanas over their faces and black hats on. And I said, "Oh, you're here with them, and you're here with the guys up on the corner of that roof with video cameras and binoculars watching us right now." And he said, "We are, and this is our country, and we're taking over." So that guy was probably a master handler. He looked like a Southern Poverty Law Center type operative, kind of a big, fat, demonic hippie. But he had his back up there. And then the cops started trying to stir up trouble with other people, and they couldn't get me to get in a fist fight with them as we're waiting to march. And there's riot police lining the streets of Austin. They had just staged Seattle. They were about to stage Austin as a beta test for the news cameras to say, "Look, any protest is violent. We need riot police. We need armored vehicles. We need helicopters. We need police with shotguns. We need more than 300 police in riot gear for a couple thousand demonstrators." And then I started pointing out, "These are cops, these are cops, these are cops." And about 20 police run across the street, including one of the commanders, and he says, they're all laughing like this is funny. It's funny to provocateur. It's funny. It's all like hunting. We're not humans. We're like a rat or something, and they're a cat. And they start laughing, saying, "Knock it off, Jones." And they pull the two guys out. They go over in the DPS parking lot. They're being debriefed by Austin police. It's on camera. They're Austin cops. And since then, this has been caught in Seattle, and it's been caught in Ottawa a couple years ago. And then the headline in the Toronto Star was, "Royal Mounted Police staged riot, posed as demonstrators." We knew that when we saw the footage. They were attacking cops. It was staged. Looked like WWF wrestling. It was a false flag event. Just like the Democrats a week and a half ago going out and saying the N-word was being shouted, and people were saying, "We're going to kill you," and people were saying that they were evil and spitting on them. None of it was true. Now proven to be another false flag. This is what everybody does, not just the police, not just the military, not just the feds, but now people in my general life I'm noticing. I never knew how many people are just liars and lie about whoever they don't like. It's like a hot dog stand or a hamburger shop who doesn't like their competition down the street, so they lie and say, "Oh, they put horse meat in their food." This is what an evil culture does. We lie to ourselves. Then we lie about others. We lie and say 50 million dead babies isn't bad, that it isn't abortion, that it isn't death of children, that it isn't infanticide. So I gave you some background there. And then they inserted two more big cops, not quite as big as the last two, to try to stir stuff up and to run around with the crowd throughout the event. So I've seen this firsthand over and over again. I mean, I was covering Bilderberg 2008 in Virginia, in Chantilly, suburb of Washington, D.C. Get there the first night. I'm eating a hamburger in the bar. Group after group comes in and says, "Alex, are you planning violence?" College-age-looking people, older cops, security people. I had security guys walk up while me and Jacobson at about 11:30 are eating a hamburger. It's the third group in 10 minutes to come in. And the head of security for the Marriott Center comes up with some other security men, and he says, "We've had problems with people pulling fire alarms. We've had problems with people trying to steal vases out of the hotel. And I'm looking at him going, okay, nice, thank you. And I wasn't sure what that meant. And then I told Jacobson, go up, set up a camera in the hotel room, videotape me on Coast to Coast AM with a report in just a few minutes when they go live and have me on. So I walk outside to smoke a cigarette. Yes, I'm ashamed of it. Young people don't do it. I start and stop all the time. I've quit for 4 years before, and I'm trying to quit again. The point is, I go outside to smoke a cigarette, because you can't smoke in the hotel. I fire it up, and there's these security trucks there with maintenance men, and they're going, we're getting ready to do it at 5 after. That's when we're going to run the test. And they're all there in front of me talking about how they're going to run the emergency test. And they talk, and then they act all suspicious and walk away, and I hear some more saying, yes, I've called the fire department to let them know.